As Christians, how do we live our faith in the world? Well, there's a paradox. On the one hand, we're called to build up the kingdom of God, to make the world a better place. There is work to do. On the other hand, our true home is in heaven. We know that everything in this world will pass away. We're waiting for the new Jerusalem that was promised to us in the Bible, in the book of Revelation. You might have heard this saying before: act as if everything depended on you, pray as if everything depended on God. This is why we have 7 days in the week. There are 6 days for working and 1 day for resting and reflecting. Of course, it doesn't always work in a tidy way like this. But we need to have some way of handing everything over to God and remembering that only He can bring it to fulfillment. The Catholic Church has developed a great body of social teaching to help us understand what makes a good and healthy society. One of the key themes is balance. It's about individual human rights and the rights of the family and society. It's about the rule of law and the right to conscientious objection. There is a place for private property, and there is a place for recognizing the common good of wider society. There is clear teaching about the rights of workers and about our duty to care for the sick, the stranger, the prisoner, and the poorest of the poor. You see all this exemplified in the evangelical Christianity of William Wilberforce. He was horrified by the injustice of slavery. He spent his whole political life working for the abolition of the slave trade. This commitment flowed out of his religious conversion and his desire to put his faith into practice. Personal faith and a commitment to the common good of society went hand in hand for him. Catholic social teaching also involves caring for the environment. This is what Pope Francis calls an integral ecology, where justice, human rights, and concern for the poor are intertwined with a concern for nature, the environment, and the whole of creation. Everything connects. There are religious implications too. As a Christian, I have a responsibility to build up the kingdom of Christ and to infuse society with a Christian spirit. I also have a responsibility to respect the religious freedom of those who do not share my faith. So there is a really solid body of social teaching here, based on the Bible and 2,000 years of Christian experience. But it doesn't mean everyone thinks or acts in the same way. You can have 2 Catholics, 2 Christians, who disagree very strongly about politics or practical policies. They will often have different priorities. What matters is that they are inspired by the same core Christian values. We learn these values as we grow up, especially in the family. And if we don't, we struggle. This is why the institution of the family is so important. It's the fundamental unit of society where we learn how to love and relate to one another. In the family, we learn the basic social values of freedom, generosity, fraternity, justice, forgiveness, and this helps us to build a just and generous society. A few days after Christmas, my sister told me that Thomas, my little nephew, had been trying to share all his Christmas presents with his big sister. He didn't want to keep anything for himself. Okay, he was probably just copying the example of his parents. Maybe he thought it was just a game. But he was learning the habit of sharing. He was learning the virtue of generosity. That same day, I read in the newspaper that a student had helped a woman give birth on the platform of the local underground station. He'd heard some screaming in the distance, and instead of walking away, he'd gone to see if anyone needed help. 5 minutes later, he was holding a newborn baby in his arms. It struck me that somewhere, probably in his home, this young man had learnt to look out for others. He had an instinct to help, and it led to this heroic moment on the tube. I'm guessing he owed a lot to his family and his upbringing. Now, life is complicated, and families are often complicated. But that doesn't stop us recognizing what a special gift it is when children can be brought up with the love of their mother and father, within the commitment and stability of marriage, and with a spirit of generosity and joy in their home. The Christian family has so much to offer society because it can become a place of faith and hope and Christian love. That's not to judge other families, but just to acknowledge that the love of Jesus Christ really can make a difference to our lives and then to the lives of the people we meet.